is a Flying Cow production. Well, hello and welcome back to Fantasy Food Challenge here on the Flying Cow. That's right. I, of course, am the Flying Cow himself, Clay Johnson. And as always on this show, we are recapping yet another episode of Tournament of Champions 6. And my guest here today is Loren Collins. Loren, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, Clay.
Yeah,
Excited to watch a cooking show for someone who the most where I cook is like I make a banana sandwich. So yeah.
sure. I mean, I will say, I think that cooking shows, even if you're not actually into cooking, especially like the food competition shows, like I was actually listening to an interview yesterday with a guy who hosts a food show, and he was talking about the fact that he does not cook. He cares nothing for cooking, but he loves like going to restaurants and stuff like this. So, seeing these competition. Exactly. So seeing the competitions, are more just like, enjoying seeing, the competition of it, but also like, well, I want to eat that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't do much cooking, but I do like food. So yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
There you go. So I'm imagining with that type of intro that you were not aware of this show going into this.
I was not aware of the show. I was aware of the Food Network. I was aware of Guy Fieri. I was not aware of the show to the point that when I went to go pull it up to watch for our recording here, I went looking for Fantasy Food Showdown because that was what the text thread was called. And I had to like search again to find like the name of the cooking show is just Tournament of Champions, like which honestly does not sound to my ear like the name of a cooking show, but I understand it now. Yes.
Right. And thank you for correcting me. Yes, it is Fantasy Food Showdown. I don't know why I keep wanting to put challenge in there. Yeah. It's not challenge. Challenge is in a word in one of my other podcasts. It's Fantasy Food Showdown. It's so annoying. I can't believe I titled the episode Showdown or Challenge. So that's why it was in my head when I introduced it. But yeah, Fantasy Food Showdown. But yeah, so you thought that was the name of the show.
I thought that was the name of the show.
Of the podcast.
And for all I knew, that was the theme of the show. I was going to watch someone make like a gingerbread Hogwarts or something like that. I didn't know.
Sure. So, I mean, have you ever watched any sort of food competition shows, or this is a completely new genre for you?
This is completely new. In fact, as I started this, I had to. I didn't actually think this all the way through. I had to pause and think, when was the last time I even watched just a reality competition show?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they just aren't the kind of things I normally tune in for. I take that back. I did watch a handful of episodes of it was the Netflix show hosted by the comedian who like guested on The Good Place, where like it was people who like weren't chefs who were given complicated things to make, and they mostly kind of failed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I watched a few episodes. That was funny.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I know they did like Nailed It.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm
thinking. Was it Nailed It? Okay.
Yeah. So, but watching people who were not, the cream of the crop cooks trying to do complicated dishes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I watched a few episodes of that. Other than that, but like, I've never been one to watch Survivor or Amazing Race or any of your like dating shows, any of your other Big Brother type
right
type shows. I watched American Idol way back in the day.
Sure.
But yeah.
So you never, just randomly saw an episode of Iron Chef or anything like that back in the day?
I'm pretty sure I have never tuned into any part of the Iron Chef. No.
Okay. All right. So for your very first food competition show, really, I mean, like you said, you dabbled on that one on Netflix.
Nailed it. Yeah.
What did you think for this being like one of your first experiences with this type of television?
It was good. At first I was a little worried they were going to spend a bunch of time doing the behind the scenes stuff of just watching people just talk up themselves or talk to the competitors. The reality show stuff I usually have less than zero interest in. But thankfully it focused mostly on the actual cooking and the actual like taste testing and an evaluation of what they were doing. So yeah, it was enjoyable for the most part. Long though.
Okay.
Yeah, the episode length took me off guard. I was glad I had budgeted the time for it.
Did it feel long to you?
I did break it up into different segments, so it didn't feel quite that long because of that. I think if I had watched it all in one chunk, and again I was watching it on Max with no commercials, I think it would have felt long. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I will say, I've said with other people that have watched this with me in the past, it's a long show. There's no way around it. And even in the later episodes, I mean, a lot of times, in the later rounds, they'll break it down to 3 matches, but it's still about an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
It's still a rather long, but it never feels long to me.
Yeah.
Part of that is the
momentum to it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of that is the competition aspect. You do kind of get this sense of anticipation, and you talked about how you were glad that it wasn't too much of like the kind of the talking head type of thing. And I get that with like regular reality shows, but that's really used to kind of put a personal spin so that they're not just nameless faceless chefs walking around that you're not interested in at all. It's enough to kind of get you invested in them and then see how good they are at what they do. Yeah. And so, like I said, that kind of gets you invested. It makes you interested. And even if you're not doing like what we're doing, where you're kind of playing along, it gives you kind of, even without meaning to, kind of get your favorites or the people that you kind of would like to see do a little bit better than others.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
All right. Yeah. You're as if to say, I didn't experience that myself, but I can see where you're coming from.
No. I mean, it's a very good point. I just didn't have much to add to it, but yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's completely fine. So, going into this episode, I would like to take a look at your bracket that you have set up. So you obviously had absolutely no clue about any of these people, any of these chefs, anything about this show. So, what was your criteria for choosing? Was it literally just that name looks good, I'll take that one? Or was it
pretty much exactly it?
Pretty
it
much
was just like,
okay,
cool matchup. Yeah, just
sure. Okay. All right. I mean, like Amanda, she chose based on, she looked at their Instagram profiles, and basically if they if she thought they were fun, she chose them. If they used ASMR, they were out. So, it was just, very scientific, very scientific grading. So yeah, I do find these things interesting. I will say, just kind of glancing over your previous weeks of play, you did actually pretty good in week 1. Week 2, you also did, I think you got all of them right but one, which honestly most of us got wrong, because we all picked Iron Chef Stephanie Izard. In fact, the only person that I've seen so far that did not pick Chef Izard in that match was Amanda, who chose Michael to go to the finals. So we'll see how that works out for her later on. But going into this round, well, we'll break down your picks one at a time as we go through the matches. Let's just say, though, that you and I had pretty different picks. We only picked the same chef on one match.
Okay.
So we'll have to see how that works out for you. So let's go ahead and let's go into our first match. So we started this off with a match between Joe Sasto and I did not pull up his last name. It's Fabio, but I want to have his last name here. It's Fabio Viviani.
Yes.
Yeah. So a match between Joe Sasto and Fabio Viviani. And you know, I will say I have seen Joe, he's been in like the last 3 seasons. And in the first 2, I think in his very first showing in Tournament of Champions, he beat Antonio Lafaso, who had been highly ranked, you know, for her previous 2 tournaments, and had been really impressive. And he takes her out in the first match in his very first showing. And I can't remember who he beat in his second, but basically 2 seasons in a row, he goes to the second match and then loses in the second match. And then last year, he got taken out in the first round. So, you know, he's out for a little bit of, you know, wanting to prove himself kind of thing, you know, really wanting to prove that he deserves to be there. And then you've got Fabio Viviani, who I'm really not familiar with at all. Apparently, he's done pretty well, I think, on Top Chef. So, you know, there's that. I know that a lot of people on Reddit were really looking forward to this match because they are both 2 highly skilled Italian chefs. Which is interesting when we get to our wheel, because our wheel, so you know, the randomizer, they spin the randomizer and they get, you know, just a random assortment of ingredients. They get, for their protein, shrimp. Okra was the produce. They had to use a crinkle cutter. Something had to be glazed, and they also had to use hard-boiled eggs. The moment that pops up, I think everyone's dreams of an Italian showdown died.
Yes.
Because none of that, like, I mean, not to say that you couldn't make something Italian out of it, but nothing screams Italian about any of that.
Yeah, both of them seemed to just have a little bit of soul die inside them when the hard-boiled eggs came up.
Well, I mean, what was funny is, and I'm not sure if you caught it or not, but the main joke with that is that, you know, the host of the show, you know, and now all of a sudden I cannot think of his name, Guy Fieri, notoriously hates eggs.
Oh, okay.
So that was the big joke, is it landed on hard-boiled eggs, and, you know, he just hates eggs, and they're all like, you know, I'll make you love eggs, you know, kind of thing. And, you know, it's just some silliness kind of stuff. But yeah, so So yeah, definitely not geared toward what they would be notoriously known for. In fact, they both end up making Shrimp and Grits, a play on Shrimp and Grits.
Yes.
Obviously, it becomes a little bit more complicated as they go along, but like when they first popped up the chyron for what Joe was making, it literally just said Shrimp and Grits. To the point where I actually had to update his the description of his dish several times, because they just kept updating it as he added more to it. So what he ended up making, and this might not be everything, but it's the majority, was Shrimp and Grits using polenta and okra, basically a chili glazed shrimp with egg yolk, cream polenta, and okra 3 ways is how they ultimately ended up describing it. And it did. Like, he had honestly some really nice looking chili glazed shrimp. I don't know about you, but the moment I saw him put that on the plate, I was like, I want it.
Yeah.
Like, it just looked amazing. And then he did the okra 3 ways. I know he grilled one. What were some of the other things that he did? I know he fried.
Described as doing like okra fries. I thought he kind of like okra fries.
I mean, I know that he put some straight into the fryer, like without breading it or anything. Just stuck it straight into the fryer. He grilled some, and I can't remember. He might have like sautéed some, like with I think it might have also been a little bit in his grits.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had 3 different preparations of the okra, which obviously is always a great way to score highly on the randomizer. But yeah, so looked really good. And then Fabio ends up making a shrimp crudo and Parmesan baked shrimp with okra grits. So he makes the shrimp and grits, but he also decides to do like a crudo preparation. And so he's basically got 2 dishes. And so each one of the chefs has basically a sideline commentator that is assigned to them to basically be their liaison to the judges, because they don't get to see the judges. The judges never see them. It is completely blind judging. But this correspondent is there to basically be their advocate to the judges, to tell the judges what they did, so that they can let them know, hey, they used this equipment in this way, they used this ingredient in this way, basically, so that the judges can't just look at it and be like, well, it's not there. They at least hear that how things were used. They might still be like, I don't taste this ingredient in here. I know that you said it's in there, but I don't necessarily taste it, that kind of thing. But they at least get to hear that it is in the dish, kind of thing. And so Justin Warner, who has been on the show since it started, has been one of these sideline commentators, and he's kind of their new Alton Brown. And I know you're not familiar with food competition shows. Have you heard of any of these famous chefs? Okay.
Yes.
So you're aware of Alton Brown. Alton Brown was basically like an encyclopedia of food. Like, he was very much into the science of food and why it did what it did and how things worked and things like that. And so Justin Warner, since Alton Brown has kind of left the Food Network and branched out to do other things, Justin Warner has kind of become their new Alton Brown, which is honestly kind of funny because he came onto Food Network through a competition show where Alton Brown was his mentor.
Okay.
So it really kind of fits.
Yeah.
But Justin, as he does sometimes, takes the camera aside and is like, the problem with preparing 2 dishes is that the judges are always going to compare one to the other.
Yep.
So basically they're judging your opponent's food and your food, but now they're also judging your food against itself.
Yeah.
And he obviously it's not his place to say this to Fabio, but he's wanting the audience to know that's never a good idea.
Yep. And that proved to be a recurring theme in this episode.
Oh yeah. It's gonna come back. But yeah, so they've got these things, and they are both using the crinkle cutter to cut pretty much everything. They both end up frying okra, although Fabio doesn't actually start to fry okra until like the last minute. And he does bread his. His is more of a traditional fried okra. But like literally to the point where he is in like the last minute and takes his fry basket over to his plate in order to get it onto the plate, and ends up, I mean, honestly, in order to be a chef at all, you just gotta, kiss the nerve endings in your fingers goodbye.
Yeah.
But especially in these, fast-paced competition, he just reaches his hand in and throws it right on the plate. We're not worrying about, it being too hot. I'm sure it was, but he's not worried about that. It's just getting it on the plate.
Yeah.
And he does get it on the plate. When you were watching this match, and you saw the finished dish from each chef, was there one that you were like, if I had to choose between these two of only one that I could try, was there one that you were like, I want that
one? Let's see. Joe went first, right? Sesto?
Yeah, Joe Sasto. He got judged first.
Yes, I think I preferred his. They visually to my eye they looked a little bit similar, but I think I like Joe's better because the second one, the shrimp that was on top of that little green preparation.
Yeah, because his grits included the okra, so it made it more green. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, the shrimp that was on that little pad of like green grits or whatever, like that didn't look terribly appetizing to me, so that kind of put me off Fabio's plate just a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I will say no hesitation, I wanted Joe's.
Yeah.
Like I said, the shrimp looked amazing on his. And I don't, I'm not saying that I didn't think that the shrimp didn't look good on Fabio's. I'm just saying Joe's grabbed me.
Yeah.
Like it really made me want it. Whereas Fabio's, I was like, if I was served that at a restaurant, I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah.
But if I was served Joe's, before I even, tasted it, I'd be like, I want to come back here. I want this again. But yeah, so, getting into the judging. So, like I said, this is completely blind judging. In fact, the audience doesn't even know who is judging until they bring them out for this first match. And of course, the judges are the same through all 4 matches. So after that, there's no more real surprises as far as who the judges are for the audience. But they'll often show like a little bit of clothing or something like that. I think it's kind of a way for, the audience to kind of guess who they think might be the judges. I will say I wasn't sure about anyone. I kind of was like, maybe one of them is Manit, but I wasn't sure. Partially because Manit had already been in the first episode. And honestly, I've been waiting for them to bring Brooke in. Who is the other, basically their I'm explaining a lot more to you because you're even less familiar with this than some of my other past guests. But basically, this is the first season that prior champions, we're in season 6.
Okay.
This is the first time that prior champions haven't competed. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you have won a previous tournament, they were not competing this year. They were either judging or, as Tiffany chose to do, commentating.
Yeah.
So, they have already used Manit, and they used Maylin last week. So I was honestly really hoping that this one was going to be the first champion, Brooke Williamson. Mm-hmm. But instead we get Manit again, which honestly kind of makes sense because Manit is the only 2-time champ. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping maybe they'll bring Brooke in next week. But yeah, so we've got Manit as one of them. And then Susan Finnegar, who is a renowned restaurateur, really big within the food space. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely seen her as a judge in previous seasons of this, but also she's been a judge on pretty much anything where they do some kind of guest judge. Yeah. I know she's been in previous episodes of like Iron Chef and, Beat Bobby Flay, all sorts of different things. She's one of those highly respected chefs. A chef, though, or a judge, though, that I was not as familiar with, and I think I might have seen her maybe one other time, but I definitely have not seen her very often, is Mary Sue Milliken, who apparently she and Susan Finnegar opened several restaurants together. They used to work together. So, this was, I was very interested in them being paired. And then, you've got Manit. So those are our 3 judges.
Yeah.
And they judge Joe's first, like I said. They, of course, they really enjoy Joe's. Manit said that she felt like the eggs were fighting the dish. So, the use of the hard-boiled egg, she just wasn't sure about it. Mm-hmm. Felt like it was kind of working against the dish. Susan felt like the shrimp was too sweet. But otherwise, those were literally the only critiques, at least the only ones that I wrote down. Yeah. So all the rest of it was pretty much praise. They all really enjoyed it. They thought it was, well-cooked shrimp, all of that kind of good stuff. It just, those were the little things that they're picking on.
Yeah.
So then they get to Fabio's dish, and they thought that it needed acid, but they loved the mayo because he actually made an aioli using the hard-boiled eggs, which honestly, I actually thought was pretty innovative too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of mayo, although, a homemade mayo aioli, I'm definitely more receptive to.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought that was actually pretty creative. And then let's see. They also felt like his dishes were fighting themselves because he prepared the 2 dishes, which is, like I said, exactly what Justin was afraid of. So, here, after hearing the judging, I'm feeling like Joe has the edge. Did you have any sort of feelings as we went into the scores as to who might be coming out on top?
Based on the judges' reviews before we got to the actual deals. I think it based on some of those comments. I can't recall which ones at the moment, but yeah, it felt like Joe might have the edge there.
Right. All right. So
based on, like you said earlier, just the 2 dishes competing against each other, like that's clearly not gone the way he had hoped it would. Yeah.
No, I don't think that really helped. But yeah, so when we get to the actual judging, Joe does win. The final score was 76-81. And just to break this down, so there are 3 things that they can get points for. There's a total of 100 points. You can get 40 in taste, or no, sorry, 50 in taste, up to 50 in taste, up to 40 in the randomizer, and up to 10 in presentation. So out of that, Joe definitely beat him in taste, 43-37, which honestly is one of the larger taste gaps that I have seen. And I think a lot of that came down to the fact that they were judging 3 dishes. I think that he, he split the vote on himself, basically. And then so on the randomizer, he actually beat Joe on the randomizer 32-30. One of the few times where the person that won the randomizer actually lost the match. But Joe then also beat him in presentation 8-7. So overall, Joe beat him by a total of 5 points, which is a pretty big spread in this competition, especially comparing, the spread of previous matches. And when they talked with the judges after the match, what they said was that they felt like this guy, obviously they still didn't even know who it was, but they felt like whoever did that was new to the competition because, they made 2 and they split it. Even the judges were like, this is why he lost, or one of the main reasons, because he made 2 dishes. It just didn't help. So if we look at our projections, and you unfortunately were not able to do points because you just weren't sure about how points or anything broke down.
Nope.
But as far as your projection goes, you chose Fabio.
I did.
I'm guessing you just enjoyed saying the name Fabio over saying Joe.
Fabio Viviani just sounds like,
I mean, honestly, if you put it like that, I gotta say, if you just say Fabio Viviani and Joe Sasto, Fabio Viviani sounds much more fun. Now, what I should have done is let you know his nickname, because they call him Mustache Joe.
Yes.
And that's infinitely more fun to say.
Yes.
But
it's a handlebar mustache at that. Like
it is. I mean, it is quite the mustache.
Yes.
Honestly, if I were him, I would formally change my name to Mustache Joe.
Yeah, Mustache Joe Sasto.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so Joe did pull this one out. And I did choose Joe for this one. And let me bring up my points. So let's see. My points for this one, what did I say? I had Joe at 85 and Fabio at 83. So I definitely chose Fabio, and I think Joe's score was 81. So yeah, I was a little off.
Yeah,
but still picked the right competitor.
Yes.
All right, so let's go now to the second match. All right, the second match was Leanne Wong versus Chris Scott. And Leanne, I think this is like her 3rd tournament to compete in. Maybe her 4th, but I know it's at least her 3rd. She's, came relatively recently. And, has honestly done decently well. I think she has pretty much always won her first match, and I think often will win the second one as well. She does pretty well in these tournaments. Whereas Chris Scott, I think the first tournament he was in was last season, and I'm pretty sure he got knocked out in the first round. So, obviously he's hoping to prove that he can go farther, type of thing. Whereas, Leanne also, looking for, to get back where she was and go farther. So, with the randomizer, we've got for our protein lamb loin chops. Our produce is Romanesco. They had to use a halogen oven. It had to be colorful, and they had to use orange marmalade.
Yep.
Now, I know you said you don't necessarily think of yourself as a chef. But like when you see these ingredients, do you think, oh, this is going to be interesting, or oh, this might be hard?
For this one, this round I didn't really have either of those reactions. For the first one,
okay,
sure, given those combinations, my reaction was just like, I don't know what they're going to make of this. Like this is going to be hard and interesting.
Right.
For this one, it's like nothing shocks me too much in any of that.
Sure.
Especially once I saw like the varieties of Romanesco. It's like this stuff's colorful already. That's going to solve the problem right there.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, because it basically looks like green cauliflower.
Yes. And honestly, once I saw a visual of what a halogen oven was, I did have a question of just like, what are they going to do interesting with that?
Sure.
And granted, that did seem to pay off kind of to my skepticism, which is that they both used it to like heat stuff up, and then the judges later complained about like you didn't really do with it anything with it other than like.
I mean, obviously we'll get there, but yeah, Manit actually knocked both of them for the way that they used the halogen oven, because it's it was like, I think she was hoping for something more innovative, and they pretty much just used it straightforward.
Yeah.
So
I was curious to see if they did something interesting, and they really didn't. So
sure. Yeah, I will say halogen oven, I was not fully familiar with a halogen oven, to the point where my mom was in the background while I'm watching this, and she was like, halogen oven, is that like an easy bake oven? Because it basically uses
how to make that joke. That's what was occurring in my own mind. It's just like, now that I say it out loud, it's like, that sounds like a light bulb oven. Like,
it does. It sounds like they're using a light bulb to heat up their food. But yeah, I mean, I will say it's a little bit more, number one, a lot more power to it than that, because if they're using something like that, it's going to take them a day to make. But yeah, it's basically kind of a form of induction oven.
Okay.
Is what the halogen oven was.
I think someone compared it to like an air fryer, didn't they?
Yeah, I think there are similarities there. I mean, I don't think that you would rely on it to get like the type of crispness that you would with an air fryer, but I do think it's like a similar concept.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as their dishes, so Chris Scott makes a lamb tartare tostada and a charred lamb tostada with Romanesco salsa. So once again, I mean, now you could argue, oh, he's just making two tostadas, but they're two different tostadas. So again, he's kind of making two different dishes again. And it's like, I mean, at first I was like, okay, maybe because they're both tostadas, he can kind of get around that if he's not making them too dissimilar. But it was definitely, when you saw it on the plate, it was this tostada, this tostada. It really kind of was an either or type of situation. And so, yeah. And once again, Justin was like, yeah, not a great idea. But, again, as I've said in previous episodes, it's not his job to warn the chefs as to what they should or shouldn't do. In fact, it would be unfair of him to do that. Now, I mean, as we will see in, some, if we see that it's taking them a while to get to certain things, they can remind them, hey, when are you going to use this? Something like that. But they can't say, hey, I really wouldn't do that. That's out of their jurisdiction. But they can remind them that certain elements have to be used because that's just part of the gameplay. But yeah. So, once again, honestly, I don't often, even though I always mark it in my notes, I don't often talk about, which commenter is paired with which chef.
Yeah.
But I will say, Justin had a kind of a hard time in this episode because 2 in a row, he gets paired with somebody doing something that he's just like, I don't think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
All right. Go for it.
And then he is validated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because he says it to the camera and yep. Doesn't work out. But then, so Leanne ends up making a Romanesco puree and umami glazed lamb loin chops. Now, I will say, anytime I see umami referenced in like the name of a dish as if it is like an ingredient, it always I'm always like, okay, that's interesting. I mean, I will say I once watched an episode of Iron Chef, and excuse the dogs. Apparently someone is home and they have lost their minds. But I did actually watch an episode of Iron Chef where the ingredient was umami.
Mm-hmm.
Umami is basically, in the direct translation of Japanese, is basically some form of either just the word delicious or deliciousness.
Yes.
So basically your ingredient is the food tastes good.
Yes.
I will say there's a bit more to it than that. It's kind of like a more of a style of like a division of ingredients or a style of cooking that kind of lends itself to that umami title. Like,
is it umami that is sometimes termed like that fifth flavor on the tongue, like sweet and salt, and umami? Is that the one?
I mean, you say that you started to say that, and I was like, I don't think so. But then you actually said it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like a savory type of thing. Often, can be kind of an earthy flavor. But it's kind of anything that adds, kind of a richness to something is umami.
Yes.
So, you see, a umami, what was it? Umami glazed. Is that what it said? Yeah. Umami glazed lamb chops, yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, so it's just kind of adding a richness to this lamb chop.
And there do appear to be like a lot of websites now that say the 5 basic tastes are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami.
Umami. There you go.
I think that's become more common during our lifetimes, actually.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, honestly, probably with the popularization of Japanese cuisine.
Oh, sure, yes.
But yeah. So I will say I have a couple of bits in my notes. The other sideline commentator, Tiffany Faison, who is a former champion. Every once in a while, she just does things either in the background or the way that she talks to the camera that just delight me. And I will say in, I think the first episode, during a chef's cook, you could kind of see her like hopping around in the background, like literally jumping up and down, hopping. Yeah. And it was just really funny. And there was a little bit of that going on. She also threw, I can't remember what somebody said, but somebody said something and she goes, "Huh, that sounds like Wes Anderson's new movie." And I was just like, "Oh, that's great. That's a great little reference to throw in."
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. It was really, honestly, I wish I'd written down what they said. But I did not. I think I thought I would remember it. Apparently I don't remember myself. I don't know who I am. But yeah, so, they're both working on the dishes. I will say toward the end, it becomes very obvious that Leanne is having time issues.
Yeah.
So she basically finishes everything up in the last minute and ends up just having to throw everything on the plate and didn't get to plate the way that she wanted to. And I will say I have seen in the past how that has really bitten chefs, that they don't get to kind of put the polish on something, they end up losing plating points. In one particular instance, in the first episode, it ended up causing an issue where the judges felt like the dish was disjointed. And so, that hurt them in terms of overall points. So when she doesn't get to plate the way that she wants to, I'm concerned. Because I did pick Leanne for this match, but looking at these dishes, was there one in particular that you favored just in the way that it looked?
Remember what Chris made? Because I think I liked that one more.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so he did the tostadas.
I think, yeah, I like that. Especially the one that wasn't like the tartar.
Sure.
Yeah, naturally. I prefer my meat cooked. But
sure.
Yes. But I like the look of the other one. Granted, hers didn't look bad, but again, hers did look a little messy. It was like,
sure. I will say, although there was a chaotic element to it,
yes,
it was the last thing that she threw on was a salad.
It was,
which honestly I thought actually added to the look.
Sure.
I honestly felt like this kind of thrown on salad, it kind of gave kind of like a wild look to the dish.
Yeah. No, I'm sure I would still like what she made. Sure. But no, his non-tartar little steak tostada thing at least look intriguing to me. It's like I think that would be tasty.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I think I actually gave like a slight edge in what I would prefer to leave. Like I wasn't as passionate about it as I was like with Joe's.
Yeah.
But I did look at that and say, I think I'd like to try that a little bit more than the tostadas. But yeah, so getting into the judging, they did enjoy, Chris's dish. But they said that they felt like he needed more salt, he needed more acid, needed more Romanesco, and Manit, as she actually said, with both of them, didn't feel like the halogen oven was used uniquely enough.
Yeah.
So she was looking for something outside the box.
Yeah.
Which honestly is always going to help you in the randomizer if you use things, not just use them several times, but use them as creatively as possible.
Yeah.
That's always going to help. And neither one of them did it unique enough to Manit's satisfaction.
Yes.
But as far as Leanne's, they seemed to love Leanne's. I think maybe one judge said that it was played at a little haphazard, but like there weren't like big critiques on it like I was expecting. Like it was more just like it was a little chaotic for my taste type of thing. It wasn't like an overall, this was plated badly or anything like that. It was just more so, it didn't seem like that really dinged her much.
Yeah.
And again, the halogen, but that was really it. So it definitely felt pretty slanted towards Leanne to me with that judging. Do you concur, or did you feel any different?
I didn't have much of a takeaway on the judging on that one. I have to admit.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fine. So getting into the actual scores. So yes, Leanne does win. She won with a final score of 85 to 80. And she won in all categories but presentation. She actually lost presentation by 1 point. He beat her 8-7 in presentation. But everything else, taste, she beat him 42-39. And then with the randomizer, 36-33. So, a good, like I said, she beat him by 5 points. Actually a pretty good deficit in her favor. Let's see. So, like I said, I chose Leanne for this match. You did not. You chose Chris. So you lost another match.
I did.
But let's see. So as far as scores go, let's see. I think there was one where I did okay. So there were 2 matches that I chose for the winner to win with 85 points. This is one of the ones that I didn't choose 85, and it was one of the ones that they actually scored 85. But I was so close with both of my scores, actually. I said 84 to 81. So I was only off by 1 point for both. But yeah, wasn't quite there. Pretty close. Pretty close.
Yeah.
And as far as, let's see, the judges' notes, they basically just kept going on about how good Leanne's dish was. And the only thing they really said about Chris's was another chef that made 2 dishes. So yeah, word to all the chefs out there looking to go on this show: don't make 2 dishes.
Yes,
not a good idea.
Yeah. Maybe watch the show before you go compete on it.
It might help just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little bit. All right, so then going into the third match, we had Karen Akunowitz versus Jonathan Sawyer. And I will say, you know, I am familiar with both of these chefs from this show. I've seen Karen on a couple of other things, but I mostly know her from this show. She has done pretty well in previous seasons. I think this is her 4th season.
Oh, wow.
The first 2, apparently she made it to the top 8. Last season, she went out in the first round, so she was hoping to get farther, you know, this season. And then Jonathan Sawyer, I think his first tournament was last year, and he went out in the first round. So he's also hoping, you know, to do better.
Yes.
I will say, I said it in the build up to this, but every time I see him, I have a hard time not thinking in my head how much Jonathan Sawyer looks like the wrestler Kevin Owens. He just does. In fact, if either one of them decided to switch careers or, you know, team up, I think that they might fool a few people.
Yes.
But yeah, it's quite a likeness between the two of them.
Yeah, as a chef, from the look of him, you'd think like, oh, he's a chef, then he's probably a short order cook at Waffle House, I imagine. Just
no, I mean, you know, he's got the beard, you know, he looks, you know, like, you know, kind of a chill dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, he, you know, definitely brings this vibe. I will say something that they mentioned a few times, but they definitely hammered it at the beginning, is that he is celebrating over 2 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
So good for him.
Good for him.
You know, yeah, that's I think he said, was it 28 months? Somewhere around there. I just remember counting it up in my head saying, okay, it's over 2 years. But you know, he's, you know, doing well with that, so that's great. But yeah, so I will say, going into this, I was actually really rooting for Karen. I have nothing against Jonathan Sawyer. I like him. I like his vibe. And if he goes past Karen, I actually might root for him in the future. But I have a longer history with Karen, so I was definitely rooting for her in this match. And I will say, Loren, this is the one match that you and I actually are rooting for the same person.
Yes, exactly.
This is the only one that you and I both picked the same. We both got Karen. And I will say, I have seen Karen cook to a point where I'm like, she can't be beaten. Like, I have seen her on fire. And then I've also seen her stumble a little bit. Those are not nearly as common, obviously. Otherwise she wouldn't be here. But, you know, she's, you know, any given match, anybody can be beaten. So, you know, I'm rooting for Karen, but I'm also, you know, wouldn't be upset if Jonathan won, but I'm also like crossing my fingers for Karen. But yeah, so our ingredients on the randomizer, we get beef chuck, beets. They have to use a box grater. It has to be spiced, and they have to use butter crackers. So, you know, Jonathan Sawyer ends up making a beet ricotta gnocchi with beet and beef ragu. And he uses this spice, which I was not familiar with. I think they called it like bear spice or something like that. I wrote it phonetically. I'm pretty sure that's not how it's spelled. But they talked about that a lot. You know, both chefs, because it has to be spiced, they're both actually using pretty interesting spices. Like, honestly, I was like, okay, I'd actually be pretty interested in trying that just to see like what these spice mixes taste like.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And then Karen ends up making Moroccan spiced kefta meatballs with a shawarma spiced beet chip with pancetta. So, you know, again, these spices, all of this is sounding really good to me. You know, I'm actually really excited. It's one of those times that I'm like, man, I wish I was there. I wish I was one of these judges. I'd really like to experience these flavors that they're experimenting with here. But yeah, let's see. So, you know, I've got written down that Karen ends up using the beets in multiple ways. You know, she ends up like I said, making a chip, which was not originally part of her meal. I actually ended up adding that to the description later. Because you know, as they cook, kind of their plans evolve and change. But you know, as it's going along, you know, we're getting different things. I can't remember which one of them said it, but one of the sideline commentators were talking about, I think it was actually Tiffany, was talking about the fact that when you're using these types of spices, you have to constantly be tasting.
Yes.
You have constant, because you don't know when you're adding this spice and this spice and this spices if everything is working together, because you don't want to you don't want to put spices together that don't work together. You also don't want to overspice your dish. There's as interesting as these flavor combinations can be, they can also be really dangerous.
I remember the judge saying that, and like you said, just having to continually test it to see like what is the concoction you have made here? Does it still hold together?
Right, exactly. So, when they finish up these dishes, was this one? Do you remember seeing this? Did you have any sort of preference in the look of these dishes?
This was around the time in watching the episode, like I started to like break up in my viewing, so like I was interrupted a little bit in that.
Gotcha.
So at the same time, though, I confess I'm not much of one for spicy food. So
sure.
as
I mean, I will say though, spice doesn't, and they made this distinction. Yeah, spice doesn't necessarily mean spicy.
Yeah.
You know, like there are curry is a spice, and curry doesn't have to be spicy.
Sure. Nonetheless, I got on presentation. I think I was intrigued by hers, but at least when it got to the judges and they were saying that just like she did too much with the seasoning. Based on what she had said, like I feel like I would probably agree with that. Like it's like I would want something a little more straightforward as a flavoring. So my guess is I probably actually would have preferred his.
Sure. I will say, just in the look.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate it to say it, because honestly, I thought they both looked really good. But just in the way that it was presented and like the overall look of it with the gnocchi and the ragu and everything that's going on, I actually found myself wanting Jonathan's a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that's not a great sign.
Yeah.
Because often when I end up wanting the dish of the opposite competitor of the one I picked, the competitor I want to win often loses.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, that's not a good sign. That's not good. But yeah, so we get into the judging, and I will say, Manit, and this is actually funny because, you know, Manit, known for Indian cuisine, you know, one of her many nicknames is the Dancing Spice Queen.
Mm-hmm.
So she is known as being, you know, highly skilled in her use of spices.
Yeah.
And she actually, when she said it the first time with Karen's and then again with Jonathan's, was shocked. But she actually felt like both of them overspiced their dishes.
Mm-hmm.
And what we can get a little bit into at least one judge's explanation for why they think that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know, she felt like they were both overspiced, so they both got a negative. They're going in. You know, with Jonathan's, they said it was a beautiful presentation. They felt like his chuck was a little chewy, although I think Susan or Mary, I think actually Mary, said that she actually preferred her chuck a little chewy. And let's see, they all loved his gnocchi. They thought that was you know, really well done. Like I said, Manit thought that he went a little handed on the spice. They also both loved Karen's. Mary called it perfect for her. So obviously she's speaking for herself, but you know, that's huge, you know. And then again, they both felt like it was over seasoned. At the end of the judging, and it's odd because when I recount this, it actually, I have, I think, maybe one more critique written down for Jonathan, but in the moment, I felt like they were leaning, the judging felt leaned towards Jonathan Sawyer in this. Did you agree? Did you really not have any feeling about the judging?
I agreed. I felt like it was ever so slightly in his favor. That was
Sure.
my gut reaction.
Sure. All right. So the final score was for Jonathan Sawyer 82 to 79. So pretty close. Actually, I think the closest match we've had this episode.
Yep.
Because only 3 points different. And when we break down the scores, so he beat her in taste by 4 points, 39 to 35. She beat him by 1 point in the randomizer. So, you know, I think I said last episode or a couple episodes back that whoever wins the randomizer usually wins. Well, they keep proving me wrong.
That's the second time this episode. Yes.
Yeah. It's the second time this episode that the person that won the randomizer did not win the match. But yeah, so she won that by 1 point, and then they tied in presentation 9-9. Which, you know, I think we pointed out last episode that the majority of the time, the highest most chefs get in presentation is 8. A 9 is rare, and they actually both got a 9. So
has
that's
anyone
actually
up till this point gotten a 9? I don't think so.
No, this is the last one. The presentation points were 8 to 7. Which, you know, there haven't been many people to score under an 8 either. And actually the person that got the 7, you know, won their match. You know, so yeah. But yeah, no, I think this is our first, this is our first 9 in and yeah, one of the people that got a 7, Leanne got a 7, and she still won. But yeah, these are our first 9s in this episode. There were definitely quite a few in the last episode. But yeah, and then as I said, you know, there was a judge, I can't remember which one. Oh, it might have been Susan, but she felt like what might have happened in terms of, you know, overworking the spices is that she feels like often when chefs use butter crackers, they forget how much salt content is in those, which can often lead to over seasoning. So it's honestly a very good point. Mm-hmm. And I mean, but I think both of them incorporated the butter crackers within their dishes. I mean, I will say, I wonder, maybe it just, maybe some of the flavors hadn't fully matured, but when they were tasting them, I'm wondering why, how neither one of them, I mean, it would be one thing if just Susan was like, oh, I thought it was a little over, and Manit was like, oh, I don't think so. But for Manit, the Spice Queen herself, to feel like it was too much spice, that had to be pretty heavy-handed, which makes me wonder, where was their tasting? How were they not able to pick that up?
Yeah.
It's a head scratcher. But let's go ahead and let's get into our final match for the episode. So the final match was the number 1 seed in Division C, Jet Tila. The man I have not only going into the finals, but actually winning this tournament is my projection. Jet Tila going up against Piet de Spain, the 8th seed. And I will say, obviously, Jet Tila, he's competed in every one of these and has gotten extremely far every time. The only thing he hasn't done is get into the final and win it. He is yet to be in the final, so obviously he hasn't won yet, but he's gotten into the final 4, I think, every season but one. And he's a fierce competitor, well known in food spaces, just an overall really likable guy, which is one of the reasons that I really want him to win one of these tournaments. And then his competitor, Piet de Spain, I believe, and I hope I'm not attributing this to her if it's not her, but I believe she's the competitor that won I think the first season of Next Level Chef. But she's been impressive in some food competitions. I will also say I had forgotten this actually in her play-in match, because she did have to play in to get this spot. But she's actually of Native American descent and is a big champion of Native American cuisine, wants to make it much more visible in food spaces, which honestly, good for her. I really hope that is something that happens, because number one, I'm I enjoy trying all different types of cuisine, and I don't think that any of them should be underrepresented. So there's definitely that. But I will say, in her play-in match, number one, her match against her opponent, she had actually a pretty good spread against her opponent, but her opponent had massive time issues and barely got everything she wanted on the plate. In fact, she literally threw the last ingredient at the plate just to get something of it on there. So, obviously not her best showing there. And when the scores came in, they were the lowest scores for anyone in the qualifiers.
Yeah.
So for her, she won, but she won with the lowest winning score against someone who barely got everything plated.
Yeah.
That doesn't give me high hopes for her in this competition,
Yeah.
So, obviously I'm 100% rooting for Jet, but I also would like Piet to show me something more. I'd like to see that she, has the chops for this competition.
Yeah.
So, we get into the match itself. They spin the randomizer. For protein, we get a venison rack. Produce is oyster mushrooms. They have to use a juicer. It has to be loaded, and they have to use crystallized ginger. So, looking at this, number one, I feel like venison lends itself to Piet's style of cooking.
Yeah, I can see that.
Whereas, Jet usually leans into more Asian preparations. Aside from the crystallized ginger, nothing screams Asian food to me.
Yeah.
So, I am, interested. I mean, obviously he can cook anything. So I'm not worried for him, but I'm interested in what he's going to do and, how he's going to use this to play into his strengths. So he ends up making oyster mushroom loaded venison chop with a red curry sauce, and ends up adding a mushroom loaded chung fun, which is basically, he described as kind of like a loaded noodle kind of thing, but he uses the mushroom to make it, so it's kind of a noodle style mushroom that he's now wrapped in this kind of loaded preparation. Honestly, I looked at it and it looked amazing. I mean, we'll talk more about what his food looked like overall. But that it all sounds good so far. And then Piet makes mushroom loaded venison chop as well. With a wajapi berry barbecue sauce. And I will say, I don't remember actually seeing the wajapi berries, but when Guy looked at them, he called them blackberries.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, I will say that they said it was like in the chokeberry family. So I imagine it's probably like a similar type of berry.
Yeah.
So they honestly end up kind of making similar dishes on the base, because they both end up not only loading their venison chop with mushrooms, but stuffing the chop with mushrooms. So that was definitely interesting. And then, like I said, Jet ended up making that mushroom loaded noodle looking thing. So, I mean, what were your thoughts about this cook? Did you have any sort of, interesting moments, or like, oh, that's weird, I've never seen that? Any kind of thoughts about this match in particular?
I am not a particular fan of mushrooms.
Okay.
So
sure. I will say it's only been in the last like 10 years that I've developed any sort of interest in mushrooms. So I get you.
So these particular mushrooms, especially when they were picking them up and throwing them down, it's just like, and they're all so connected. They're large and they're connected. It's like, this reminds me of the stuff I pull out of my yard and
okay.
It's like cleaner, obviously.
Sure.
And but no, it's like not super appetizing. Okay. As they went through them, and I suppose to jump ahead to the question you'll ask me next, if that's okay, is that between the two, which one I prefer? Pretty easily hers. I'm not particularly a fan of like curries.
Okay.
But the sweet barbecue sauce that was described as going on hers, it's like that sounded amazing. It looked really good. Even like the fried mushroom thing that she put on top, that was tempting enough that I would at least try it. The one time I remember ever eating mushrooms was where they were like batter fried in college, and I ate one. It's like, this isn't bad. What's inside this thing? Because they're batter fried. I don't know what's inside. And it's like, oh, it's mushroom. I don't feel like eating more of those, but that wasn't bad.
Okay, sure.
So, but yeah, I love barbecue, and so I'm a man of simple tastes. But that's what lean towards her. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I will say I was completely in the other direction.
Yeah.
Partially because I love curry.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know that Jet Tila has ever made anything that I've looked at and not immediately wanted to eat.
Yeah.
So there was that. But honestly, like I wrote down that I thought Piet's looked good. Like if you put that in front of me, I would not be mad.
Yeah.
Like I would definitely be interested in eating it. But if you put both of them side by side and I had to choose, easily Jets.
I will say,
down. Like it looked amazing to me.
Up until the moment he poured the curry sauce on it, I thought it looked amazing. But even just like the color of the curry sauce, just
see, I loved because it was like an orange kind of. Oh, I loved that.
Yeah.
Oh no, that
I know I am globally in the minority.
That did everything for me.
Yeah, I know. And and as we'll get to in a second, it's like I know that I know how which of our opinions was shared. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, I will say we haven't mentioned the fact that in this match, again, like I mentioned, we only picked one the same. So I chose Jet and you chose Piet in this match.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, only as we were discussing here, and I have blown up this graphic on my iPad to follow along. Only once I blow this up did I suddenly discover it's like, oh look, all the seed rankings are in these narrow little.
Did you not see that? Oh,
yeah.
That might have helped a little bit, huh?
It would have helped. It really. It would have. At the very least, it would have helped in this episode.
Sure.
It definitely would have helped in this episode.
Yeah.
Because Leanne was the lower ranked and she won, and Joe was the lower seeded and he won. And I still would have picked Karen, but that among those three, it would mean I would be I guess 2 out of 3 rather than 0 out of 3. So
right.
Anyhow,
right. I mean, I think you said that backwards because they were both higher ranked, not lower ranked.
When I'm saying, I'm sorry, you are correct. I'm saying lower in terms of the lower number. I don't know how seed.
Oh yes, Sorry, higher seed, lower number. Yes,
that's what I mean. I understand that the lower number actually means the preferred. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now what you said makes sense.
Yes.
All right. But yeah. So this definitely looked tilted toward Jet, but at the same time, if I got the chance to go eat at one of Piet's restaurants or whatever she might be doing, I would do it. Absolutely. Yeah. She definitely proved to me that she can make craveable food.
Yes. And I was simply intrigued by the whole talk of like using native recipes and flavors and stuff like that.
100%. Yeah. And honestly, as you say, the berry based barbecue sauce sounds. I'd love to try that.
I want to try that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to eat once we're done with this. It's like I wish that's what I was going to be eating.
Sure. Yeah,
I like my
get that,
but just like that berry barbecue sauce sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so in the judging, they love Jets. Susan said that her chop was slightly over, but she didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good it was. And it, like, again, she said slightly. So it was like, maybe a little bit more than my preference, but it's so good that it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
And they said that the flavors were good, but not overwhelming, which is, good. That's positive. And then they also called it craveable. So, that's a pretty strong endorsement.
Yep.
And then for Piette's, they said that her chop was cooked perfectly, but it needed a bit more fat. And then they also felt like hers was lacking in ginger, which I didn't write this in my notes, but I do remember they said that his ginger was used perfectly.
Yeah.
So to me, these comments feel like we're leaning pretty well toward Jet.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't deny.
Yeah. So when we get into the judging, Guy lets us know that not only did we score well, honestly, both scored really well, but that someone scored the highest score in the tournament so far.
Yep.
Scores were 91 to 84. Jet wins.
Yep.
I will say though, after her, after what she put in the qualifying to score 84, that's really good for Piette.
I was also going to say, like, 84, other than Jet himself, 84 is the second highest score of this entire episode. Like, someone got an
85. 85.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Seconds to the 85.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, if she'd been against a couple of other people that won, obviously she would have also had their ingredients to work with. So who's to say that she would have scored that high? But just numbers alone, she would have beaten most other people in this episode. It's just she went up against Jet, who killed.
Set it She was third out of 8, but still lost.
Yeah. No, nobody else has even scored a 90, and he got a 90. Yeah. I think before this, the highest score was either 86 or no. It was 88. That's right. Last week, Showdown got the 88. So yeah, he surpassed it by 3 points. So that's pretty strong. But yeah, so and he beat her in every category. 45 to 40 in taste, 37 to 36 in the randomizer, and 9 to 8 in presentation. Again, good score for her. But when you're going up against a guy, and honestly, Jet Tila very regularly scores around 45 in taste. His flavors are on point, man. They just are.
Yeah.
He's gonna be hard to beat in this tournament, if anyone can manage it. So yeah. But yeah, those are our scores as far as the picks go. Obviously, I won because I chose Jet. My point breakdown for this one, let me pull it up. My point breakdown for this one was I had Jet winning 86 to 79. So I actually undersold both of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty good. Pretty good for that. But yeah, I will say I would compare our scores here at this point, but you didn't get any points in this division.
No, I also
because
went 0 for 4. So
you did. You
yes.
did. You actually went 0 for 4.
Woo, perfect.
Which I think, I mean, I haven't looked at everybody's for this week, but I think you're the only person so far that I've seen in all the weeks combined to go 0.
Yeah. That's right.
And like I said, the one that we both picked was
the
I
one loser.
swear, every week I have at least one loser.
Yeah.
Every week so far, I have at least one that I'm wrong on.
No,
And
in this episode, the one time where, like I said, I didn't see all the seeds, the one time I did pick the higher seeded person.
Yeah. Yes. But you know, hopefully the next couple of weeks will treat you a little better there, Loren. I will say, I didn't actually look to see. Let me take a look at who you have going on in this, because hopefully. Oh, buddy, you picked Piet to Spain in the finals.
Yes, I did. That is correct.
I will say, who did you have winning this? Because you didn't actually mark it.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, I did. You're right. I didn't.
You have Shota versus Piet in the finals. Who did you have winning?
Showdown.
Shota. Okay, so Shota's still in it.
Yeah.
You and Dan have both picked Shota to win. Yeah. So I will say you will have to make a change. Before we go into the next round.
Yeah.
But Shota's still, showing up good for you. You'll just have to pick somebody, who's still playing to go against him in the finals.
Okay.
So we'll see how that turns out for you. This just was a bad episode for you.
Yes,
and it happens to be the one you came on.
The first one. And the one I'm guessing on this show.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, all the other ones you actually did pretty well. The first week you picked all the matches correctly. Mm-hmm. The second week you only missed one. Yeah. It just bad week for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had a better excuse, but I don't.
Yeah. But we will
done. I think he's done a man that researched people. I could have done that. I could have done
Well, I mean, she looked at their Instagram.
Sure. Yeah.
Is what she did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I could have gone people on their facial hair or something like that.
I mean, or like you said, you could have just looked at the seed numbers. That might have helped.
I could have done that. If I had done seed numbers, I would have gotten 3 out of 4.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we will be back next time with actually the final week in the first round. So it'll be our final first round episode. After that, we'll be going into into round 2.
Yeah.
So and things are just going to get more interesting from there. So good luck to everyone. I do want to go ahead and let people know how they can get into contact with us. Of course, you can contact us on all of our socials at The Flying Cow Pod. You can also email at theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. Make sure to check out everything that we have going on there. Like I said before, if you're playing along or, just want to let us know what you think about our picks, feel free to do all of that. We'd love to hear from you. Loren, anything that you want people to know about?
I don't know. You can find me on Twitter at Loren Collins. I'm talking a lot of politics these days.
Yeah.
Wish I wasn't, but I am.
Right? Oh, yeah. I know that feeling.
Beyond that, I don't do a lot on Instagram. I occasionally post on TikTok, but not often enough.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll say this since this is my moment to talk. At one point in the show, before we sign off, they cut to the audience and people are eating popcorn, just like out of like movie popcorn buckets. And nonetheless, I wanted to imagine that this was some kind of like, I wanted like one of the hosts to explain that like this is an organic corn prepared a garlic butter glaze.
Honestly, don't put it past Justin Warner.
Yes.
I could totally see that dude doing it. I really could.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, like the one thing that ruins is like honestly is the paper container, and like it should just be served in like little bitty black square trays where like the popcorn is scattered across it. And then the butter,
ramekins. They should have it in like
and the butter is just like sprayed back and forth. Little diagonals,
meticulously applied. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, specially placed grains of salt.
Yes.
Or I mean, it's probably like Himalayan pink salt.
Exactly.
Like
good. You went for the special salt before I could get to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, Loren, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone out there for listening. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Like I said, we will be back next week with the final match the final episode in round 1. But until that time, moo.